in the heart of a sprawling wilderness, where the trees reached skyward and the air was punctuated by the sounds of rustling leaves and distant animal calls. There existed a wild dog whose reputation intimidated even the most ardent animal lovers. This untamed creature epitomized the struggle between nature and humanity, a captivating yet misunderstood figure that had captivated local residents for years. The wild dog roamed freely, a ghostly silhouette against the backdrop of the green forest, its coat like burnt amber and its eyes sparkled with intelligence yet guarded wariness. Those who encountered it spoke in whispers about its elusive nature. It appeared at twilight, often seen curiously observing human activities from a distance before vanishing into the underbrush. Attempts to capture or befriend this striking animal had gone awry, leading to frantic chases and alarming growls. The wild dog seemed destined to remain steadfastly independent, refusing all efforts at domestication. Historically, wild dogs have been known to reclaim their feral instincts even when raised in close proximity to humans. This particular dog was no exception. Born into the wild, it had inherited an innate wariness of people, distancing itself from warm hands that sought to care for it. Over countless months, multiple owners tried to lure it with food or affectionate gestures only to be met with defiance. The wild dog maintained a fierce loyalty to its freedom while embodying both beauty and tragedy, a reminder of what is often lost when nature grazes too close to human habitation. Residents of nearby towns were divided in their opinions about the wild dog. Some viewed it as a menace that posed potential risks to livestock. Others saw it as a misunderstood spirit of the wilderness deserving respect and admiration. Captivated by its graceful movements and haunting eyes, children and adults alike traveled into the dimming woods hoping for a glimpse of the enigmatic creature that danced along the edges of their lives but never embraced them. Yet interacting with wildlife carries inherent challenges. Socializing such animals requires not just patience but an understanding of their instinctual needs and boundaries. It is a task more nuanced than simply providing food or companionship. It urges one to respect an animal's inherent traits while slowly bridging an unspoken gap through trust. Amid this landscape soaked in stories of failure and fleeting vision, one couldn't help but wonder, could there be someone out there capable of redefining this ridge between human warmth and wild defiance? Little did they know that soon enough, an unexpected hero would emerge from among them. A boy with an open heart and unwavering courage who would dare to believe in hope where many had given up. The wild dog had become a legend in the nearby town, with stories circulating about its uncanny ability to evade capture and its defiance of anyone who dared to approach. Local residents often gathered at the general store, exchanging tales of their encounters with the elusive creature. Some spoke of brave attempts to lure it with food, while others recounted nerve-wracking chases through the underbrush, their shouts echoing against the trees as the dog effortlessly slipped away. One particularly memorable story came from Mr. Thompson, a farmer whose cattle had been spooked by the wild dog on multiple occasions. "I was out in the field, minding my own business," he began, shaking his head in disbelief. Suddenly, there it was, just standing there, watching me with those piercing eyes that I thought I could get close, maybe offer it some scraps from dinner, but before I knew it, it was gone like a wisp of smoke. His account was met with nods of understanding and a few chuckles. Everyone knew the futility of trying to befriend the wild dog. Mrs. Henderson, a local teacher and animal lover, had her own story to share. "I tried for weeks to gain its trust," she recounted, her voice tinged with frustration. "I'd leave bits of kibble at the edge of the woods every evening. Sometimes, I'd catch a glimpse of it sneaking up to nibble at the food, but as soon as I made a sound, just a rustle in the leaves, it would bolt back into the trees." Her attempts were met with admiration but also sympathy. Many felt a mix of respect and sorrow for the dog's plight. The wild dog's reputation only grew as various townsfolk relayed their experiences. Some believed it was simply too wild to be tamed, while others theorized that it might have been mistreated in its past, leading to its deep-seated distrust of humans. Children often gathered around their parents during these discussions, wide-eyed and intrigued by tales of such an extraordinary creature living so close to home. Each story added layers to the mystique surrounding the wild dog, an animal that had woven itself into the very fabric of town lore. Yet beneath this fascination lay an undercurrent of concern. Many wondered if the dog would ever find a safe haven or if it was destined to remain an eternal wanderer. As opinions varied and accounts multiplied, one thing became clear. No one had managed to break through the wild dog's defenses. It remained a symbol of independence amidst a world eager for connection, a challenge that few dared to confront. Little did they know that soon enough, someone would emerge who possessed not just courage but an unyielding belief in the power of kindness. A young boy ready to take on this daunting task in the quaint town nestled near the wilderness. There lived a young boy named Ethan, whose spirit was as bright as his smile at just 10 years old. He carried a sense of wonder about the world that seemed boundless. With tousled brown hair and sparkling blue eyes, Ethan had an infectious enthusiasm for life, always exploring the outdoors, whether it was climbing trees or searching for hidden treasures in the forest. His adventurous nature was matched only by his compassion for the creatures that shared his environment. Ethan's love for animals ran deep, nurtured by afternoons spent with his loyal golden retriever, Max. Together, they roamed the fields and woods, where Ethan would often talk to Max as if he were a confidant. His parents had instilled in him a sense of empathy toward all living beings, teaching him the importance of kindness and respect. Every creature has its own story, his mother would say, and sometimes they just need someone to listen. This lesson resonated with Ethan, shaping a worldview that valued connection over conquest. His home life was warm and supportive. His parents worked hard to provide for him, often sharing stories around the dinner table about their own childhood adventures. They encouraged his curiosity and creativity and never dismissed his dreams of becoming a veterinarian one day. While other children played video games or watched TV, Ethan found joy in reading books about animals and nature, dreaming of a future where he could help those in need. However, beneath the carefree exterior lay a sensitivity that made him acutely aware of the lives of others, especially those less fortunate. This empathy extended to the wild dog that roamed near their town, which he had heard stories about from friends at school. Unlike many of his peers who cast it as a fearsome creature, Ethan felt a tug of sadness at the thought of the dog being alone and misunderstood in his heart. He sensed that this wild dog's fierce independence masked a longing for connection. Ethan's friends often challenged him, claiming that the wild dog was too dangerous to approach. Yet their warnings only fueled his determination. He couldn't shake the feeling that behind the wild dog's wary demeanor lay a heart yearning for trust and companionship. With each new tale told in town about failed attempts to befriend the dog, Ethan's resolve grew stronger. He envisioned a bond that could transcend fear, a connection built not just on bravery but on understanding. As he prepared to venture into the woods, Ethan felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He knew that this encounter could change everything. Not just for him but for the wild dog as well. Little did he realize that his journey would soon become a testament to the power of kindness and the magic of believing in possibilities where others saw only barriers. One sunny afternoon, with the sky painted a brilliant blue and the scent of fresh pine wafting through the air, Ethan set out on one of his many adventures in the wilderness surrounding his town. Armed with his trusty backpack filled with snacks and a notebook for sketching, he felt an exhilarating mix of excitement and determination. Today was different. Today felt like the day he might finally catch a glimpse of the wild dog he had heard so much about. As he wandered deeper into the woods, the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves enveloped him like a comforting blanket. He carefully navigated the trails that twisted through tall grasses and dense thickets, his heart racing at the thought of encountering the legendary creature. Each step was calculated yet filled with wonder, as he imagined what it would be like to meet this elusive being. Suddenly, as he approached a small clearing bathed in sunlight, Ethan froze. There, just beyond a cluster of ferns, stood the wild dog. It was even more magnificent than he had envisioned. A striking figure cloaked in shades of burnt orange and brown, its coat glistening in the dappled light. For a fleeting moment, time seemed to stand still as Ethan took in the sight before him. The wild dog appeared regal yet wary, its ears perked up and eyes shining with curiosity. It stood poised, ready to bolt at any sign of danger, yet there was something else in its gaze that resonated deeply within Ethan, despite its hesitation. It seemed to be gauging him just as much as he was studying it. Ethan's heart pounded louder than ever, but he fought against instinctive fear. Instead of rushing forward or calling out, he crouched low to the ground, allowing himself to appear less threatening. With gentle movements, he began to quietly speak to the dog in soothing tones. "Hey there, I'm just here to make a friend," he whispered softly. Careful not to startle it. He pulled out a small piece of jerky from his backpack and extended it toward the wild dog with an open palm, the universal gesture of goodwill. The wild dog's nose twitched at the enticing scent wafting through the air. For a moment, curiosity triumphed over caution. It took a hesitant step closer, each movement measured as if testing whether this boy posed any threat. Ethan held his breath as their eyes met, their worlds colliding in that beautiful moment suspended between fear and trust. He remained still, allowing time for the wild dog to decide whether to approach or retreat. Deep down, Ethan understood that this encounter could be transformative not just for him, but for both beings standing on either side of nature's divide. In that brief instant, between boy and wild creature, there was an undeniable connection sparking in silence, a spark that could ignite hope where loneliness once prevailed. Little did they know how this chance encounter would mark the beginning of an extraordinary journey together. As Ethan crouched low in the clearing, he took a deep breath, acutely aware that every movement mattered. The wild dog stood just a few paces away, its glossy coat shimmering against the vibrant backdrop of the forest. Ethan's heart raced with excitement, but he knew that in this moment he had to embody calmness itself. The last thing he wanted was for the appeal of their encounter to dissolve into fear. With deliberate slowness, Ethan shifted from his crouch to a seated position, allowing his body to relax. He remembered his mother's words about respecting animals' space. It was vital to convey that he meant no harm. His voice emerged softly, as gentle as the whispering whined through the trees. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you," he murmured, each word intended to soothe whatever apprehension coursed through the wild dog. Ethan reached into his backpack again and retrieved another piece of jerky, careful to keep his movements fluid and non-threatening. He displayed the treat openly, pinching it between his fingers like an offering rather than a demand. Maintaining eye contact with the dog, he continued talking in low tones. "You must be hungry. I have something for you." The wild dog's ears twitched in response. It was listening. Ethan noticed its posture begin to subtly shift, the rigidity slackening just a fraction as curiosity danced with caution in its expressive eyes. He remained still, firmly planted yet prepared for whatever direction this delicate interaction might take. Encouraged by the dog's reaction, Ethan decided to take one small step closer, just enough to reduce the distance between them, but not so much that it felt threatening. He positioned himself slightly sideways rather than directly facing the dog. This posture is less confrontational and more inviting. "See, it's just me here," he reassured softly. The wild dog hesitated but took a tentative step forward of its own accord, inching closer while maintaining a watchful gaze on Ethan's face. Each small footfall resonated in the quiet surroundings, a reminder that trust could only be earned one cautious step at a time. As it approached, Ethan could see more details. The wild dog's coat was not just stunningly colored, it bore scars and marks, a testament to its life in the untamed wilderness. In that moment, Ethan felt an overwhelming surge of empathy wash over him. How lonely it must be for such a beautiful creature to live isolated from companionship, ignoring any lingering fear within himself or predictions from others that warned against approaching the wild dog too closely. Ethan decided then and there that their destinies would intertwine today, with soft encouragement emanating from his heart. He extended his open palm toward the wild dog once more. "I only want to help you," he promised silently. As they bridged that final gap between human and animal, there existed an unseen thread weaving their fates together. A silent agreement built on hope and courage for new beginnings. Little did they know how profoundly this moment would change their lives forever. As Ethan sat quietly, his heart pounding with anticipation, he sensed the wild dog's inner conflict mirrored in its shifting eyes. The dog stepped closer, hesitating momentarily before casting a glance back toward the dense woods behind it as if weighing its options. In that fragile balance between instinct and curiosity, something fundamental was shifting. The walls of hesitation were beginning to break down. Ethan held his breath, fully aware that this was the pivotal moment he had dreamt of. He could feel the tension in the air. It crackled around them as if nature itself was holding its breath to witness what would unfold. Slowly and deliberately, he raised his open palm, still cradling the piece of jerky that had become a symbol of trust between them. "You can take it," he said softly, his voice a calm whisper that floated on the gentle breeze. "I promise it's good." The wild dog's gaze sharpened as it caught sight of the jerky, its nose twitching in response to the enticing scent that drifted through the clearing. With every second that passed, both boy and beast were teetering on the edge of something monumental, an unspoken agreement that perhaps friendship was possible despite their differences. With cautious resolve, the wild dog took a step forward, Ethan remained motionless, only offering encouragement through his steady gaze and soothing words. "It's okay. You're safe here," he reassured, channeling all his empathy into those simple phrases. The moment stretched out like an eternity. Ethan was acutely aware that this single action could lead to either breakthrough or retreat. Then it happened. A beautiful synergy of instinct and vulnerability. The wild dog took another tentative step closer, this time moving within mere feet of Ethan. Its posture softened as it approached cautiously, drawn not just by hunger but by a blossoming trust as well. With a swift flick of its tongue, it licked the jerky from Ethan's hand, the act so small yet imbued with profound significance. For Ethan, time stopped as he felt the warmth of connection surging through him. He could hardly believe what had just transpired. This wild creature, once untouchable and shrouded in mystery, was now sharing a moment with him that felt sacred. The wild dog's trust in him allowed him to experience not just joy but a sense of purpose. He had ventured into this wilderness hoping to uncover a friendship where none seemed likely. As if sensing this change in their dynamics, the wild dog paused after taking the treat and surrendered to curiosity once more. It tilted its head slightly to one side, studying Ethan with eyes that spoke volumes, eyes filled with a newfound understanding and perhaps even an invitation to see beyond their differences. In that instant, an invisible thread connected them, woven from hope, kindness, and mutual respect. And both realized they were no longer alone in their respective worlds. What began as an uncertain meeting between boy and beast had transformed into something remarkable, two souls embarking on a journey toward companionship against all odds. Little did they know how far this unexpected bond would take them both in the days to come. In the days that followed their first encounter, Ethan dedicated himself to building a relationship with the wild dog, knowing that trust is earned, not simply given. Each afternoon, he made his way into the woods, a feeling of anticipation bubbling in his chest as he prepared for their next meeting. With a small backpack filled with treats and toys, he set forth on his journey, purposefully slower this time so the dog could hear him approach. Ethan always arrived at the clearing around the same time each day, hoping that familiarity would help ease any lingering apprehension within the dog. The first few days featured similar patterns. He'd call softly to let the wild dog know he was there, and then wait patiently, first in sight of the trees and later on the edge of the clearing. His voice, filled with warmth and encouragement, floated through the air like a gentle breeze. "Hey there, it's me again," he would say softly as he waited, allowing every moment to deepen their connection. As time spun on its axis, the wild dog began to recognize Ethan not just as another figure in its environment but as a consistent presence who posed no threat. With unwavering determination, each visit came armed with something enticing. The second day brought an assortment of flavored jerky. On another day, Ethan stowed away small toys he had imagined might intrigue the wild creature. A bright red ball rolling in the grass or a rustling stuffed animal. He could picture how curious it must be for an animal of its nature to see these strange objects appear. They were little offerings hinting at friendship. The wild dog too began to exhibit its own gradual change. At first still cautious, it would emerge slowly from its hiding spot behind distant trees or thick bushes. Over days, it transformed from making fleeting appearances to more purposeful steps towards Ethan each time. With every small act of kindness, every shared moment, the invisible barrier between boy and wild beast gradually appeared less formidable. One afternoon, when Ethan tossed a toy ball towards the edge of his clearing and watched as it rolled away softly through blades of grass that shimmered under sunlight, something magical happened. Without hesitation, the wild dog chased after it. Not long or full speed, but enough to warrant enthusiasm and hope in Ethan's heart. The thrill of watching this previously skittish creature engage with playful curiosity sent ripples of joy through him. Gradually closing that final gap between them became increasingly palpable. Conversations bloomed in softer tones, punctuated by moments filled with laughter and delight, as Ethan watched how the wild dog's body adopted a more relaxed demeanor each time they met. Whiskers bristled less frantically while ears perked in newfound interest rather than fear, weaving together trust with gentle gestures like these. Treats offered without judgment or playthings brought into an unsuspecting world fashionably wrapped in kindness. Ethan transformed what once may have seemed impossible into something beautiful and real, a companionship rooted deeply in patience and love amidst uncertainty. Days slipped by like whispers in softly flowing streams until one could wonder whether someday freedom might just invite an unlikely alliance between two exploratory souls embarking on life together against all odds. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan and the wild dog's bond grew stronger, woven together through shared experiences that celebrated the beauty of companionship. Each visit became more meaningful. The dog would greet him with an enthusiastic wag of its tail, visibly relaxing in Ethan's presence. It was as if they had created a language of their own, rich with understanding and subtle communication. Ethan began to observe the little things. The way the dog's ears perked up when he called its name, or how it playfully circled around him with a newfound exuberance. There was a joyfulness in their interactions, from chasing after colorful leaves blown by the wind to simple moments spent lying side by side in the grass, both basking in the sun's warmth. The wild dog started to approach Ethan on its own terms, seeking proximity instead of recoiling back into the shadows. One day, armed with a brightly colored frisbee, Ethan decided to introduce an element of play into their routine. He tossed the frisbee across the clearing with hope dancing in his eyes. The wild dog watched curiously for a moment before apprehensively trotting after it, its movements hesitant but determined. It picked it up and returned it to Ethan, dropping it at his feet as if unsure about what to do next. With each repetition of toss and retrieval, laughter and excitement filled the air, amplifying the bond between them. Their adventures extended beyond just play. Ethan began to share stories of his life, talking about his family and his dreams of becoming a veterinarian. Unbeknownst to him, these tales provided comfort not only to himself but also conveyed a sense of belonging to the wild dog. Whenever Ethan shared his thoughts, the dog would settle beside him, its gaze settling gently on him with an almost understanding comprehension, as if attuned to every word spoken. Ethan also took note of moments where he could support the dog's journey toward deeper trust. During rainy days, he prepared a makeshift shelter using materials from home, branches, and large leaves, to ensure that the wild dog had protection from nature's elements. He checked on his furry friend even when conditions weren't ideal, carrying extra treats tucked safely in his pocket as an incentive. On another occasion, during an afternoon spent basking in sunlight near their familiar clearing, Ethan noticed a sudden change in demeanor from his canine companion. The wild dog began to lean against him, a small yet telling gesture that indicated growing comfort and companionship. That moment filled Ethan with warmth. Here was a creature that had once navigated a world alone, now longing for shared closeness. As their friendship blossomed further, Ethan realized how profoundly he was evolving alongside the wild dog. Every shared glance reinforced their connection, a partnership formed through patience infused with kindness and respect. They were no longer mere boy and beast. They had become something rare, a beautiful bridge connecting two disparate worlds bound by affection. With each passing day, love flourished amidst adversity's shadows. What initially seemed an impossible dream was solidifying into reality, one where understanding transcended barriers, creating a lasting bond anchored by mutual respect and belonging that neither boy nor dog could have anticipated. Together they embraced the joy of exploration, of unwritten chapters waiting just beyond the horizon. Forever changed by this incredible journey they embarked upon side by side. As the bond between Ethan and the wild dog grew, whispers of their extraordinary relationship began to spread throughout the town. Local residents, who had once viewed the wild dog as a distant legend, found themselves captivated by the transformation happening right before their eyes. Curiosity turned into admiration as children recounted stories about Ethan's bravery and kindness to anyone willing to listen. At the general store, where townsfolk gathered to share news and gossip, conversations often revolved around Ethan's remarkable interactions with the wild dog. "Have you seen him lately?" an elderly woman remarked, her voice filled with tenderness. "I saw that boy just yesterday sitting right there in the clearing with that dog curled up beside him." Her words painted vivid pictures of companionship that started to replace old fears and misconceptions. Mr. Thompson, the farmer who had previously felt frustrated by the presence of the wild dog around his cattle, found himself questioning his perspective. He observed Ethan regularly from a distance, amazed at how gently and patiently the young boy approached a creature that had been so mistrustful. "Maybe if we all took a leaf out of Ethan's book," he confessed to another farmer, "we'd see how different our lives could be if we offered kindness instead of fear." Meanwhile, children in the town were especially inspired by Ethan's unwavering determination. Small groups formed among them, echoing tales of their own adventures as they roamed through fields pretending to be explorers like Ethan. A new spirit ignited in them. "If he can do it," one young girl exclaimed while twirling in delight as she imagined herself befriending a wild deer, "maybe we can each find our own animal friend." Ethan's mother often watched these developments unfold with pride swelling in her heart. She understood that her son was not just forming a bond with a wild creature, he was fostering empathy and reshaping perceptions within their community. At times, she would join Ethan on his visits to the woods, offering words of encouragement as both mother and son marveled at their growing connection with nature. Even skeptics began softening their views as they witnessed small shifts in the wild dog's behavior during Ethan's visits. The wild dog would now seek out companionship rather than hide from it. It became less of a phantom haunting their fears and more of a cherished participant in Ethan's daily adventures. Many locals stood quietly at the edges of the woods while Ethan played with his newfound companion, hopeful expressions illuminating their faces. The town witnessed something remarkable, a reawakening of compassion within its members. Not merely for the wild dog but for all beings deserving gentle treatment amidst an often harsh world. As they watched Ethan forge this unprecedented bond through love and patience, they were inspired to reflect on their connections with one another and beyond. By fostering understanding rather than defining boundaries, Ethan's friendship with the wild dog became more than an isolated affair. It represented hope for transforming attitudes and encouraging those around him to embrace kindness toward all creatures, wild or tame, while redefining what it means to coexist harmoniously in shared spaces. In this way, both boy and dog unknowingly became ambassadors of empathy, reaching far beyond their small corner of the world into uncharted territories, waiting patiently for new beginnings. Despite the blossoming relationship between Ethan and the wild dog, challenges loomed on the horizon, testing their bond and resolve. The process of trust building was not linear. It was a journey fraught with setbacks that occasionally left Ethan feeling disheartened. One particular afternoon, Ethan arrived at the clearing only to find the wild dog retreating back into the bushes at the sight of him. He had come armed with a bag of treats and his usual enthusiasm, but today, something felt different. The wild dog had caught wind of the strong scent of a nearby storm and its instincts kicked in, compelling it to seek shelter instead. Ethan called out softly, "It's okay, I'm here," but the dog didn't return. Moments stretched into an uncomfortable silence before he reluctantly turned back home, disappointment hanging heavy in the air. Contrary to the joy their earlier encounters had brought, such moments of uncertainty made Ethan question whether he would ever truly earn the dog's complete trust. Yet, he remained committed, knowing that every setback was part of the process. He understood that building a relationship with a creature as proud and independent as the wild dog required time and sometimes patience would be tested. Meanwhile, societal skepticism loomed large over their developing friendship. Some townspeople were still wary about the wild dog breaking down barriers to become a companion animal. Rumors circulated about how wild dogs could pose danger or aggression, breeding fear among those who had not witnessed Ethan's gentle interactions firsthand. A few well-meaning neighbors often cautioned him against getting too close. "That dog is still wild, Ethan. You can't trust it completely." Ethan listened but remained undeterred. He knew that his approach, nurturing rather than confrontational, was what set him apart from previous attempts by adults who had failed to connect with the dog. Still, he sometimes felt the weight of their doubts pressing down on him during moments when he needed support. Despite these external pressures, Ethan began to notice subtle changes within himself as well. He grew increasingly attuned to the wild dog's body language, learning to recognize when it needed space or when it wanted to play. However, sometimes past experiences would seep into their interactions. There were days when Ethan would catch himself holding back, fearing a rejection or misstep that could undo their progress. Yet with every challenge came an opportunity for growth. On days when trust waned, Ethan relied on his unwavering belief in their connection. He found creative ways to help foster a sense of security for both of them, like establishing a routine for visits or creating an open space where the wild dog could roam freely while still basking in Ethan's comforting presence. As they navigated this landscape of challenges together, they both learned valuable lessons about resilience and trust. Each small victory, a wagging tail welcoming Ethan after a brief absence, or the wild dog finally accepting his presence without hesitation, served as reminders that progress could be slow but meaningful. With time, both boy and dog began to embrace imperfections along their journey, reinforcing their bond even amidst uncertainty and societal skepticism. They discovered that true companionship is built on understanding each other's fears and vulnerabilities while celebrating moments that redefine what it means to coexist harmoniously in an unpredictable world, and as they faced these challenges together, they emerged stronger, an unbreakable partnership rooted in love and mutual respect against all odds. As the bond between Ethan and the wild dog continued to deepen, a pivotal moment presented itself, a life-changing decision that would alter the course of both their lives forever. One afternoon, while sitting side by side in their favorite clearing, Ethan looked down at the dog, who lay contentedly against his leg, and felt an overwhelming swell of affection wash over him. He realized that this magnificent creature, once a symbol of wildness and mistrust, had become an integral part of his life. The thought crossed his mind, what if I could bring this beautiful dog home? The idea filled him with excitement, yet it was tinged with trepidation. He understood that adopting a wild animal was not a decision to be taken lightly. It would require commitment, responsibility, and a promise to keep the dog safe and loved. But through their journey together, Ethan had learned how to approach challenges with gentleness and patience, qualities he knew would serve them both well. After contemplating the prospect for several days, sharing conversations with his mother about the responsibilities of pet ownership and the importance of providing a nurturing home, Ethan felt ready to take the leap. His heart raced at the thought of making the wild dog a permanent part of his family. He envisioned the joy it would bring not just to him but also to the community that had begun to shift its perspective on the once feared creature. Ethan approached his mother one evening as they sat together on their porch, gazing at the sun setting behind the trees. "Mom," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I think I want to adopt the wild dog. I know I can take care of it and give it a good home." His mother turned to him, her expression shifting from surprise to warmth as she processed the weight of his words. "I've seen how much you care for that dog," she replied softly, "and I can tell how much it means to you. But we need to consider how to help it adjust to being in a home environment. It's important to ensure it feels safe and loved." Together, they discussed the preparations required: suitable space in their yard, a cozy bed, nutritious food, and proper training techniques for wild animal. The very next day, Ethan returned to the clearing where their journey had begun. Determination in his heart. As he approached the wild dog, he felt a rush of energy coursing through him. "Hey buddy," he greeted with a smile, "I have something important to ask you." He knelt down, looking directly into its eyes as if searching for understanding both in himself and in his furry companion. In that moment of stillness, Ethan made his intentions clear. "I want you to be part of my family. I promise to love you and take care of you." As he spoke those words, the wild dog watched him intently, its ears perked up as if processing each sentiment. After eagerly awaiting Ethan's return each day, today felt different for the dog. It leaned closer toward Ethan, nudging him gently as if sensing the weight of their shared destiny. With a wagging tail and bright eyes reflecting newfound trust, it seemed to signal its approval, and unspoken agreement formed between them. For Ethan, this act of adoption was not merely about bringing home a pet, it symbolized hope for other wild animals yearning for connection amidst fear and misunderstanding. Their journey together could serve as an inspiration within their community, a testament to transformation through love, patience, and understanding. As Ethan grasped the significance of what lay ahead, a life intertwined with this wild creature, he recognized that their partnership held immense potential. Together, they could challenge stereotypes and break down barriers surrounding wild animals, proving that compassion nurtures trust and fosters meaningful relationships beyond boundaries. With their hearts united, they stood on the brink of an extraordinary adventure destined to redefine their worlds forever. As the weeks turned into months, the wild dog, now affectionately named Scout, began to embrace its new life with Ethan's family. The initial days of adjustment had been a mix of excitement and uncertainty, but with each passing day, Scout's transformation was nothing short of remarkable. Once a creature that had roamed the woods with wariness and distrust, Scout was now integrating into a loving household, showcasing behaviors that spoke to its growing comfort and sense of belonging. Ethan's home had become a sanctuary for Scout, filled with warmth and companionship that it had never known. The first few nights were challenging. Scout had hesitated to sleep inside, preferring the safety of the backyard where it could keep an eye on its surroundings. However, with patience and encouragement, Ethan gently coaxed Scout to try sleeping indoors. One evening, after a long day of play and exploration, Scout finally curled up on a plush bed in the corner of Ethan's room. The sight brought tears to Ethan's eyes. It was a small but significant triumph in their journey together. As days went by, Scout started exhibiting behaviors typical of domesticated dogs. It learned to respond to its name with eager tail wags and bounding steps, a stark contrast to the skittishness that once defined its demeanor. The wild dog became increasingly playful, engaging in games of fetch with Ethan and joyfully chasing after toys around the yard. Ethan watched in awe as Scout discovered the joy of companionship for the first time. Transforming from a wary wild creature into an affectionate friend, family dynamics flourished as Scout began to bond not just with Ethan but also with his parents. They embraced Scout as part of the family, showering it with love and attention. His mother often prepared meals specially for Scout, ensuring it received nutritious food that catered to its needs. On weekends, the family would take Scout on hikes through the woods where it explored with newfound confidence, embracing its wild roots while also relishing the security of its human companions. However, this transformation was not without its challenges. There were moments when Scout's instincts would kick in unexpectedly, reminding everyone of its wild heritage. On one occasion during a family picnic in the park, a sudden rustle in the bushes sent Scout bolting away from Ethan's side. Heart pounding, he called out, "Scout, come back." It took a few moments before Scout returned, panting but unharmed, an important reminder that while they had made great strides together, trust was still a journey. Ethan remained attuned to Scout's needs, recognizing that this blend of wildness and domestication required sensitivity and understanding. He would often sit quietly with Scout under the stars at night, allowing it to feel secure while reassuring it that it was safe and loved. These moments solidified their bond further, providing Scout with the reassurance it needed to fully embrace life as part of a family. As time passed, Ethan's heart swelled with pride as he witnessed the wild dog flourishing into a loving companion. The dog that once eluded human touch had now become a loyal friend who would greet him at the door with excited barks and loving nudges. This transformation not only changed Scout's life, but also inspired everyone in the community who had once harbored fear or skepticism about wild animals. In this way, both Ethan and Scout became ambassadors of hope, demonstrating through their journey that love and patience can bridge even the widest gaps between species. Their extraordinary story served as a powerful testament to the potential for connection between humans and animals, igniting compassion in others while redefining what it meant to coexist harmoniously in a shared world. Together, they had embarked on an incredible adventure that promised to continue inspiring those around them for years to come. As Ethan and Scout's journey unfolded, it became clear that their relationship was about more than just companionship. It served as a powerful testament to the lessons of acceptance, empathy, and unbreakable bonds formed through patience and unconditional love. Together, they had navigated the complexities of trust, overcoming fears that once defined them both. Ethan learned to see the world through Scout's eyes, understanding the challenges of transitioning from a wild existence to one filled with human interaction. Each time Scout hesitated or retreated, Ethan recognized the remnants of its past life and responded with compassion rather than frustration. This gentle approach not only deepened their bond but also taught Ethan invaluable lessons about being attuned to the needs of others, regardless of how different they might be. Conversely, Scout's transformation into a loving companion illustrated the profound impact that kindness can have on healing even the most guarded hearts. The wild dog blossomed under the nurturing environment Ethan provided, gradually embracing the joys of family life while shedding layers of fear and mistrust. It became evident that each wagging tail and playful bark was a celebration of new beginnings, signs that love had triumphed over adversity. Ethan's family also played a pivotal role in this journey, embodying acceptance and support as they welcomed Scout into their home. They engaged in activities that helped reinforce Scout's integration into their lives, from taking it on family hikes to sharing cozy evenings curled up together on the couch, treating Scout with respect and kindness. They created an atmosphere where acceptance thrived, allowing the wild dog to flourish in ways previously unimaginable. The community, once skeptical, began to witness this extraordinary transformation. Stories of Ethan and Scout's bond spread like wildfire, igniting conversations about empathy toward all creatures, wild or domestic. Neighbors who had previously viewed Scout with suspicion now found themselves inspired by Ethan's commitment to fostering understanding between species. Children began to emulate Ethan's approach, coaxing stray animals with gentleness and respect instead of fear. a ripple effect igniting hope for change throughout the town. Through their experiences together, Ethan and Scout became ambassadors for the idea that patience can pave the way for trust. Their story highlighted that every relationship requires effort and understanding, especially when overcoming preconceived notions about others' capabilities or intentions. The duo demonstrated that true companionship is built on mutual respect, a lesson applicable not just between humans and animals but within all walks of life. As their extraordinary journey reached its conclusion, it was evident that what had begun as an unlikely friendship had evolved into a remarkable partnership capable of inspiring many more. They had shown that love could transcend barriers, transforming lives along the way, creating connections rooted in acceptance and empathy. Reflecting on this chapter of their lives, both Ethan and Scout understood they were changed for good. They had forged an unbreakable bond that would resonate beyond their own experience, serving as a beacon of hope for others searching for connection in a world often riddled with misunderstanding. Their adventure had only just begun, with hearts united in love and respect for one another. They stood ready to face whatever lay ahead together, forever transformed by their incredible journey intertwined with patience and unconditional love.